thank you everyone for joining us today, and I'm delighted to have with me this eminent group of panel members, and it's going to be great to have a conversation with all three of you, with people from large leading banks, a small finance bank, and somebody who's driving capital flows into technology in many ways. So maybe let me start with you, Nitin. Why don't you share a bit about what you believe is the new frontier in technology, and what are the 2 or 3 technologies that could potentially drive the next round of innovation, or is currently driving the round of innovation in BFSI?
I think the short answer is generative AI, number one. Number two, banking as a service. Both, which you end up using internally as well as helping you partner with people outside. And 3 would be probably a lot more innovation around customer experience. Again, by use of a lot more data science. I think broadly around these 3 is where most of the work is now converging, at least in banks.
Sure. No, thanks for that. And Bhaskar, in your view, what are you seeing? Like, Nitin spoke about generative AI, customer-led transformation, and so on and so forth. But in your view, what's the trends that you are seeing in the small finance banks and that segment? Yeah, I think we've got 2 Bhaskars, so that's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Sure. I think I was just telling both Nitin and Bijith, saying that the number of employees inside a bank branch today outnumber the number of customers inside by 2:1. So clearly, I think technology will be the core driver. And as Nitin rightly said, the key I would think would be in terms of not today, technology is kind of democratized to a point that even if I'm a small finance bank, I can offer the similar kind of a technology as a large bank would do. Could be an SBI, HDFC. It is the customer experience is what that would really be very, very important in terms of usage of technology. That would differentiate, as Sonali also mentioned in the last panel. It is about collaboration. You need not manufacture all the products to yourself, but the very fact that you can service all the products, which is the best in class, to your customers would really require a substantial technology implementation. More than that, it is not the infrastructure. I was coming through Atal Setu from my office in Belapur. The infrastructure is superb, but to access the infrastructure, the roads are pretty bad. So that I think the technology per se is that infrastructure, but how to really have the railroads to access that infrastructure would be driven substantially by technology.
Sure. And just to continue with you for a minute more, tell us a bit about how digital are you and what's been your digital journey?
Since we didn't have any technology baggage, as I call it, technology debt, so we started zero up. So to that extent, my branches are no more than 600 square feet, completely on technology. We don't even have full-fledged connectivity. We just operate out of tabs. Our new branches, which we call it as smart banking outlets, are 1+1 with just a tab. And probably we'll have some VR experience where customers can come to the branch but talk to us at the head of. So these are the things that we are really looking at, and that I think I don't run ATMs at all. I said not really required. I don't run lockers. So these are the ways that where I'm not really tied by legacy in terms of customer will come only when we are able to give lockers, when ATMs. Now that ecosystem is large, as again the previous speaker mentioned, that UPI didn't exist. Now with all of that existing today, I think we have to just focus on only one thing, which is in terms of delivering customer experience without making them go to the pain points.
Sure. No, so maybe I'll come to you now. Bijith, should I call you Bijith or Bhaskar is fine?
Bijith is fine. Okay,
Bijith is fine. Okay, great. So maybe let me come to you. So, I mean, Bhaskar also mentioned about VR in many ways. So obviously there are there's a range of technology. Of course, AI is the most talked about, but there's VR, there's metaverse, and so on and so forth. So where are you seeing capital flows? I mean, of course, AI for sure, but, just would like to hear from you.
No, see, from a bank's perspective, I think there are various other places where they would actually be looking at investing. And if you look at it as to what are the key things that are very important today, cyber risk is probably the place where, maximum capital flow for a bank would go to ensure that, you do not have any adverse attack which is coming in. And, and that's the reality of today, right? So therefore, that's one area. The second area where the bank, I'm sure, must be investing a lot is from the digital fraud perspective. How do you ensure that you identify the digital frauds? How do you ensure that you avoid it? How can you ensure that you don't get bad actors coming into the ecosystem? And if you see the latest RBI report, I think last year the digital frauds were almost 1,500 crores. So therefore, it's really a place where you need to really invest. The third area is the entire data analytics. I think there's still so much of work that needs to be done, because not because of anything else, because the amount of data that banks have. Some banks have got legacy systems. It's lying in multiple places. So how do you try and ensure that you actually have a modern data lake or a data architecture so that you have a very seamless experience? And last, obviously, in the whole customer experience and user journeys, and how do you upgrade your both back-end, middleware, and the front-end systems to ensure that you can actually be ready and compete with what the fintechs can offer. So I think these are all different areas into which there will be enough capital allocation that the banks will do, and that's exactly what we are seeing even from all technology supporting fintechs. That these are the type of fintechs who will be getting more capital allocation and investments, because this is really a need of the hour.
Sure. No, I think you brought out some good points there around investments in cybersecurity. And as we speak today, the globe is having an outage in some ways, right? So, and of course, points around data analytics and so on and so forth. But I'll go back to you, Nitin. On you spoke about customer experience, and I think in many ways you're putting out railroads to connect with customers through your YONO platform, etc. So tell us a bit about that, and how are you sort of driving customer experience in a slightly differentiated way?
I think we're just trying to take it to the next level by making it more personal, hyper-personal if you'd like to call it. More use of insights that we have about customers, insights that we can gather while customers are interfacing with us across all platforms and channels. But I think we are also now moving slightly away from the traditional way of looking at customer personas and therefore giving them any kind of intervention. Also layering it with a risk profile of customers. Because now in the context of cybersecurity again and the digital frauds, it is more important to have a risk-based filter also for the same customer persona. For example, if you have a persona which you think is most likely to consume 1, 2, 3 products because it fits your algorithms, it could also be a profile which is also vulnerable to a higher amount of risk. So you do want to create better experiences, but you also want to create some little bit of a hurdle rate there or some amount of friction so that you don't expose the customer to any incremental risk or any new kinds of risks which might emerge in future. Okay? So to that extent, I think the effort now is to make it a little more risk-based personalization. I wouldn't say that it is only going to be risk-based and everything becomes more and more difficult, but yes, there should be an appreciation, a lot more of that, to say that yes, we would like to do this. One, we would like to do this with explicit consent of customers, and two, we would be mindful of the fact that we don't expose the customers to any undue risk. Now that puts a lot more responsibility on the bank to say that, okay, how do you manage that risk? Because the customer is not aware that they're getting exposed to a new kind of a risk. So then you need to upgrade your risk models, you need to upgrade all those tools that you use to profile customers and either alert them in advance or make sure that they are excluded from some of these things in case there is any possibility of being vulnerable to that. So these are the new things I think we are bringing in the practice now, so that we don't create any new possibilities of or new categories of risk as we go down this path of just keeping to improve the customer experience.
Sure. No, I think a very interesting point you brought out about how you sort of say, trying to be the right custodian for the customer in terms of, supporting them from a risk standpoint. So I think that's great. So it's not just about user journeys and user experience and upselling and cross-selling in that sense. So Bhaskar, maybe let me, ask you this question, which is, metaverse was a hype in many ways. And the question is that hype, is it going to remain a hype, or do you think we'll see real life use cases in the banking sector a lot more as we move forward? Any commentary on that?
See, usually some of the trends which we see, including this UPI adoption which happen, many of the changes sometimes which are deep, takes long, it is slow and then sudden. So I think that phase of being slow is what probably we are seeing. I'm sure it will be a tremendous use and it will scale, and including mobile. All of that takes around 4 to 5 years in terms of where nothing happens, and suddenly you realize that in the next 1 or 2 years, everything happens. So probably I think I would say that we are in that phase.
Sure. And what sort of use cases would you would you relate to with vis-a-vis metaverse?
So I'd rather kind of go currently what it is not there. If now today I have to transact, as Nitin was also mentioning, banks are increasingly becoming the custodians, I would say, specifically us, who cater only to the low-income households. We are actually quasi-decision makers on behalf of the customer. When that responsibility is given to you, when that authority is given to you technically, your responsibility increases tremendously. So we'll have to make sure that the quality of service at the branch is not left, and given that the attrition in the private sector banks is close to 40 to 50%. So you don't see the same branch manager if you're going to the private sector bank for the third time over in 3 months' time. So it's very important that customers, as they walk in, are able to directly have the experience of meeting the best of people that they can interact, which obviously cannot be in every branch. It could be at the headquarters, it could be at the service centers, and that's where the technology, at least at the virtual reality, will be the first step. And thereafter, I think now as the technology improves, it can technically be interacting with the person, the best resource, without actually meeting them in person.
Sure, sure. No, I think thanks for that. And I had also learned of this pretty interesting use case, which is the future of me. So a couple of global banks have done this, which is you kind of replicate in the metaverse your future, especially in the wealth management space. So that was quite an interesting. So you look at your future self and attributes, and then based on that you drive advice on wealth management. But yeah, so Bijith, tell me a little bit about do you I mean, of course you kind of work with fintechs and tech fins. So where do you see the trend shifting? Is it still the fintech story, or is it more the tech fin story, and what sort of areas are you seeing there?
I think both of them will continue to see flows, because for the simple reason that both of them will exist, right? You need support for financial institutions from a tech perspective. Therefore, you will certainly find that more and more financial institutions will reach out to a lot of these new age players to automate, to digitize, to give the back-end support. And you're really seeing that. I mean, I'm sure there are enough examples in the market where large institutions have actually gone on to take some of these solutions from these tech fins as their back-end solution. So I think, and your ability to actually look at many of these entities who give really cutting-edge tech, who are nimble, who are future ready, to actually, and when you start working with all of them, and if it is in a manner which is plug and play, it becomes easy for you to integrate with many players and operate. So therefore, I think that tech fin will continue to play a role, because that's what will make banks much more modern and much more nimbler. Fintechs, of course, there is a huge opportunity for fintechs to continue to explore the market. I think, be it on the unsecured space, there's a lot of play, I think, that is going to open up in the affordable housing space. I think there's a huge opportunity that will come in the MSME space, because these are, the unsecured personal loan space probably still tapped a little bit more. But I think there's a lot of opportunity in affordable housing. There's a huge opportunity in MSME. And I think you will continue to see a lot of interesting, entities come up there. And I'm sure that, if there are interesting use cases, there are interesting sectors, you will obviously find that capital allocation to those entities will continue to happen.
Sure. No, thanks for that. Maybe Nitin, any comments in terms of what you think is the future of CBDC, and where do you think that's going to go?
I think we need to give it time. Most of us are either rushing to conclusions about whether it's working, not working, or maybe we are hoping for a scaled up adoption a little too soon. We just need to give it time. There is obviously established that there is a very clear set of benefits when you use CBDC for both retail as well as wholesale transactions, including cross-border. But those need to be gradually mainstreamed. When we try and mainstream something which is still being tested and hasn't been tested by everybody, then chances of disbelief are a lot more. So I would think, at least my understanding is that it does have a promising future, but we just need to be patient and give it a lot more time.
Sure. Any comments from you on the same topic?
It will, as Nitin said, it will. But as of now, we haven't really found the real use cases. It has to be truly a substitute for cash. Anonymity has to be kind of an port. Otherwise, there is no difference between that and doing through the digital. I think that factor of differentiation has not been outlined very clearly for this usage to really pick up.
Sure. No, I completely agree. I mean, anonymity is probably going to be key for it to really take off. But I mean, I guess there's also this element. So while I think at some point of time, government showed some intention to say we will go that path, but I think you'll probably require a lot of strong regulations and trust in the ecosystem for the common man to really say that yes, it is anonymous in that sense. So I guess that's there. And I think the other piece is what Nitin also mentioned, which is the use case around international remittances. I think that can be a game changer, but that's not something that's easily done, right? I mean, with UPI also we are seeing only bilateral arrangements. So any thoughts there?
Not really much of comments on that because we as a small finance bank focus more in terms of domestic. So right. I'm sure Nitin would be the right guy or probably Bijith.
So I can just add a point or two. So therefore, with probably the opportunity for fintech players start, building use cases around CBDC. I think that there are opportunities that can play out there. The other thing is that cross-border, as Nitin said, with whatever is happening in GIFT City, and if CBDC works, again there's a great opportunity for full revolution that can happen on that international cross-border payments. So I think these are a couple of areas which will be good use cases for CBDC, even without the anonymity, etc., being an issue.
Sure. No, thanks. Thanks. I think that's useful. Again, I mean, just kind of sort of getting to the most favorite topic in today's conversation, which is Gen AI. So any thoughts on of course, I mean, to what extent have we in the banking sector today really leveraged and fleshed out the benefits of Gen AI? Any comments, Nitin?
I think it's early to demonstrate the quantifiable benefits, but I think from a pure hypothesis point of view, the benefits are known because the first set of benefits will really apply on the productivity side, and most of the low-hanging use cases are around that, which banks not just in India but across the world are trying to come up with. The second set of benefits will really come around processes, which will get improved, the models, forecasting, risk models, fraud prevention, cybersecurity. But that will be the next phase when there is a deeper deployment of Gen AI within our operating models. And eventually, it is expected that Gen AI will lead to the innovation cycle itself, where banks will be able to innovate on the back of the already established baseline of what Gen AI has been able to bring about. So I think we just need to go through that whole journey rather than trying to get to an end state right now, because there is really no end state. This technology is evolving by the week. Every day is a new learning it's something new to discover in this technology. So the best way around is to just keep testing it, keep deploying, and keep finding those low-hanging productivity gains, which are imminent, and they have been tried out both in India as well as outside India. And I think as long as that works, it gives the confidence for the next phase.
Sure. Thanks. Any comments?
Since you specifically asked for banks, so I'll tell you based on my experience with ICICI. I think there are clearly a few simple use cases which certainly are being used. One of it is obviously your entire phone banking, voice, and how that can be used to enable and improve productivity. I think this other area is basically wherever there are robotic processes. I think that's a clear yet another case where Gen AI is being used in some form and shape. It's also I think being used from the perspective of interactions with either the front-end staff or with the relationship managers to make that entire experience that much more better to ensure for that particular conversation as well as for future conversations, because Gen AI can help you contextualize it. It can make your productivity much better. So therefore, there are these simple use cases. If you expect that a bank is going to use it for writing a code, I think we are some days away from it, because it's not easy especially for bank to start depending on certain solutions like that. So therefore, I think there are those use cases that are there. And it will take, at least in a banking world, and that's how I think it should be, because it's regulated, you need to take care of people's money. So obviously, you build use cases where you know as to how this technology works and whether there are any other allied problems that these technologies can bring about. So I think that's how it will move with the banking industry.
Sure, thank you.
I would rather look at first as a process improvement and for customer service. I think as we kind of have test the use cases, it can be of tremendous use. And as Bijith also said, in terms of customer service, in terms of contextualizing, so if somebody calls and then we know that the call will last for 4 minutes, and specifically this is a particular customer, you can really use it in terms of contextualizing the whole thing. And you can use it across. I think I would rather look at first as a process management, cut out the waste in every process. We have done it, and then legacy we keep adding addendum 1, addendum 2. So 90% of any process looks sharply is waste. So it's only 10%. And that's, I think, is better done through Gen AI. Second would be customer service. This is what I would like to really look at it from a small finance bank.
Sure. No, so clearly, efficiency, risk management, and customer service, customer interactions, I think those are the three takeaways from what I heard from all of you. And I completely agree. I think some of the other stuff around upsell, cross-sell is largely a lot more machine learning and AI, traditional AI, but there's some bit of
content generation, for example, is a low-hanging use case.
Yes,
marketing
absolutely.
content.
Marketing content, absolutely, right. And marketing campaigns, right? Absolutely. No, that's great. And maybe I'll open it up with for some questions. If there are any questions from the audience at this point, we've got about 5 minutes remaining. So if there are any questions, we could take questions for the panel.
Good evening, everybody. I am Anirudh from Ashiana Financial Services. I have a query on what Gen AI can do for customer experience.
Sorry, Gen AI can do for?
Customer experience, enhancing customer experience. Anybody on the panel can answer.
Yeah, so there was a bit of that was shared, but do you want to just summarize it?
So, look at it from this perspective that let's assume that today, typically, if you see the interaction between a front office staff or an RM with a particular customer, the whole process is by stating that there's a conversation that's happening. There's no way for you to record it. Then somebody will have to capture a minutes, and you don't know where that minutes is going, what is happening out of it. And let's assume the next conversation happens with the same customer. You sometimes restart all of it, or that memory is lying with the individual. It's not an organizational memory. Now, imagine if all of these things is actually happening in a system where it's getting recorded. Let's assume that you're doing it on a platform. Even if it is, let's say, something as simple as Teams. At real time, minutes are getting generated. Real time, key points are being picked up. Real time, you're able to generate as to what is the next possible product that you can offer, or the possible service issue that the customer has, depending on the conversation that is happening. And ensure that all of these things, and what is the solution that the customer is looking for, all of these things can be rendered real time without having to rely too much on either the individual's knowledge or he reaching out to some superiors, etc. Because it can be done at an organizational level, and this whole thing then remains an organizational memory, so that even subsequent interactions can become that much more meaningful. I think this is one of the use cases that you can look at.
Yeah. Okay, we have one more question.
Yeah, hi, good evening. My name is Adil from a tech company.
Just keep the mic closer.
Yeah, sorry. My name is Adil from a tech company based in Bombay. My question is for Mr. Bijith Baskar, partner Premji Invest. What kind of major investments is done by Premji Invest and what are their return expectations and what type of investments generally Premji Invest do? Thank you.
Return expectations, obviously, I'm not going to tell, but the type of investments that we do typically are, obviously it's a private equity firms, obviously they're larger checks, so it's not at a VC level or at initial seed level. But, any interesting solution which could be in the space of either the fintech or the tech fin, which can bring in new use cases, new segments, new innovative methods to do the business which are more productive, and it could be in any of the areas of financial services. It could be lending, it could be wealth management, it could be insurance, etc. So the entire landscape of that is the area in which we operate, and obviously just like any other private equity, the expectation is that it gives those returns. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we got 2 questions from the audience, and thanks so much. We'll take a last question.
My question is that how frequently you upgrade your technology? See, Intel has come up, after every 18 months, they come up with a new generation of the processors. And in banking, finance, everywhere, whatever the technology you are using, what is the frequency of upgradation of the technology?
Anybody wants to take that?
See, the frequency of upgrade is again based on multiple aspects. One is that it doesn't really have to be upgraded just because the manufacturer has upgraded. You don't change your car because a new model has come, right? Just because a new model is there, you don't discard your car and say that I'll buy the new model. Okay, so when you're running with the technology which is meeting your purpose and is being supported by the OEM, you run with that. You obviously keep upgrading, you keep applying the new features. When it is turning obsolete, or you have a visibility to say that yes, it is going to turn obsolete, there will be no support, there is much better technology available, then you start the whole replacement cycle. But the upgrades is an ongoing thing. Upgrades doesn't have to wait for a time-bound thing. If it is an upgrade that's required every 6 months or lesser than that, that takes place.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll just quickly go through a quick 30-second round. Okay, and all that you need to tell me, I'll tell you a technology, and all that you need to say in the context of BFSI. In the context of BFSI, is it a hype? Is it hype or real? Okay, so just quickly, we'll just go through that. So, Gen AI?
Will be real.
Will be real. Will be real. So, slightly futuristic. Okay. Quantum?
Hype.
Metaverse?
Metaverse is gone. I think the phase came and went also.
It's
but
gone.
quantum,
Okay.
I agree, is, did you say hype? I believe it is still in a research phase right now. We just need to understand it better.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason I say that is because our technologies that we've used for computing are based on pure mathematics. Now you have physics coming in quantum computing. Our people are not trained to be both physicists and mathematicians. So when we understand that through some academic research, which is anyway going on across the world, this could be the new frontier.
Sure. No, I agree. I mean, maybe it's a hype at this point, but it'll be real in 2 to 3 years, possibly. I'll continue with a quick one more round. Sat tech, satellite technology for banking.
I haven't even thought about it, so I'll pass.
Okay.
I can answer that question because we did it, I remember, in ICIS. It's got its use cases, but it's limited.
Okay, so more hype.
I wouldn't
In the
say
context
it's
of
hype,
banking, you're saying it's more
no,
hype.
that's why I said it's got its use cases, but if you look at the
Okay.
entire thing, it may
We
be
can
one or
add
two
one
use
more.
cases.
We can add one more word, niche. So it's niche.
It's niche,
Okay,
yeah.
Fair,
yeah.
fair. 5G?
5G is coming as a grand rollout, no? So it's not, you can't escape it. So it's not like, it is going to help every single industry, why just banking?
Fair enough.
Yeah, even 6G.
No, fair enough. I just thought we'll have a quick round of some fun. So thank you all. Thank you very much for joining me. And it was lovely having you with me. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.